Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity Radio presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Hope you made it through another disappointing, destructive, letdown loss where Nebraska was in control, then they weren't. And maybe you're over it by now. We've said that I don't know how many weeks in a row with one-score losses and bitterly disappointing as Nebraska now in the stretch run. Stop me if you've heard this before with Nebraska football. Pick a year, pick a staff, pick an AD, the last 2 decades. We get to November, the calendar flips to November. It is all about future speculation, right? Right on cue. 4 years, 5 years in, some less, a few more years with the case of Bo. But you flip the calendar to November, well, is coach and his staff going to be back? What's the AD thinking? You know, what's the short list like? I mean, that was a loud narrative as the end near for Scott Frost and Nebraska football. And in the moment, man, right after you lose to Purdue, you have Coach Frost in the postgame and Adrian and JoJo Doman and all the captains stepped forward. And, man, they manned up, they owned up, they spoke afterwards, and then they let their actions versus their words, per their commentary today at the noon presser, do their talking. And it doesn't feel or sound like they're scared of Ohio State. It sounds like everyone's fired up and ready to go, which is great because you got big bad. What is Ohio State? I mean, are they number 2 in the country? They'll probably be like 3 or 4, won't they, when it comes to the playoff? They're 4th overall, but they're going to be right there in the mix for your top 4 spots for the college football playoff when that's revealed tomorrow night. But Nebraska's just kind of moved on, and they're eyeing a big prize in Ohio State. Vegas, listen, there's been a lot of years where the point spread's been way more. 17.5, 19.5, 23.5, right? You've had some crazy numbers for this Nebraska-Ohio State ball game, a lot of them in Lincoln. So it'd be very Scott Frost tenure to come so close against a boatload of ranked teams in 2021 and lose a one-score game, and then in 2015 Michigan State fashion, Nebraska play absolutely out of their mind and give you more hope. And that's where I want to go is hope now finally gone? Did Purdue do it to you? We've asked that question, and you've been pulled back in. You've checked back out as a Nebraska fan because it's just toying with your emotions. It's hurting you. Numbers to dial up, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Those are the numbers to get in. Can find and follow us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel, and can email Chris at HailVarsity.com. We'll get to some emails here in the inbox shortly. But you have an abysmal second half. Nebraska's offense, very bad. The defense has been putting a lot of miles on them. And after some stops in the third quarter, couldn't quite get it done against the Purdue offense. Couldn't get to the quarterback. So we'll hear from Scott Frost here in a little bit from today. But my gauge is this on Nebraska, Scott Frost, and the future. I think Trev Alberts is not wanting to make a move. I think Trev Alberts understands that they're and you're sick of hearing it, but they're close. I think Trev Alberts is a guy that wants to help mentor Scott along with leadership. Not coach for him, but help him be a better CEO, be a better program leader. And in the moment where Scott Frost said Saturday, I let the captains address the team after the loss, he said what he had to say, but it was mainly peer-on-peer discussion point. Well, that's looked okay. This team doesn't feel like they're done. This team doesn't sound like they're done. And we'll see what their response is on Saturday at 11 against Ohio State. We'll see what Adrian Martinez's response is Saturday at 11 against Ohio State. And we'll see what Scott Frost's response is at Saturday at 11 against Ohio State with a game plan, with some execution, with his 4-year quarterback he's tied to. And back to Trev and Scott's future, I think most Nebraskans want this to work with Scott. I think you've been very patient because you've had so many just dumbfounded losses, confounding how did that happen? Only this team can this thing happen to, and it's repeated. Somehow, some way, you screw up and the game is won by the other team, and it's clearly lost by Nebraska because of what they did or did not do. And that hasn't changed. So it's a bigger picture question. Is that going to get any better? Say Nebraska goes 2-1 these last 3, and you still miss a bowl game, but at least you're 5-7. You take down Wisconsin and Iowa. Maybe you take down Ohio State. I don't know. Point is say you get close again, a la the theme of the season almost. And if you're Nebraska, is that okay if you're Trev Alberts? You got big money boosters that are throwing money into the program for that new building. You got big money boosters that probably have seen enough, and they're offering to hand over a blank check. You got some boosters say, "No, man, give our homegrown kid more time." I mean, and it's a tug of war right now. But you have the last word if you're Nebraska and Scott Frost and these group of super seniors and these 4th or 5th year juniors. You have the last word. I think Trev's going to see how they play and can they get some wins, and he'll make his call. Scott is not acting like a guy, at least he did not today, that is nervous about his job. And I think you can tell if someone's faking or acting in these high-pressure, tense situations. He seemed comfortable. He seemed poised. He seemed confident. They are acting like they've just won 3 in a row, especially with the defensive kids that came up front. And part of that is, let's go slay the dragon, man. Good. Great attitude. Great mindset. Don't let Purdue, dare I say, beat you twice. But, hey, they're saying and doing all the right things. Now it needs to be on the field Saturday and go play a good football game where you're not overthinking it and it's 2nd and 1 and you punt the run game. That's what's maddening is management. And can that change and get better? We can all get better, but do you believe it can happen? That's the question. Can it get better? Will it get better under Scott Frost if he gets more time? And that's a $1 billion question. And some of you are sick of waiting. You've made your call. Others are, no, let's give him more time. And I'm out of time with this 1,000-foot leash at quarterback. And I don't believe you've got a better thrower in Logan Smothers. So you're screwed on offense with what you want to do, throwing the football, trying to take some deep shots, take the top off, right? You saw a year ago what you couldn't do at wide receiver. You made changes at wide receiver, so you got some guys that can get open, allegedly, and get downfield. But you got a quarterback that is very inconsistent with it. And, man, if Adrian's still struggling, if Adrian's still not 100%, I want to see a move to the bullpen. There should have been a point after the shuffle pass interception Adrian watched. Didn't happen. And I think that's grating on a defense. I think that's grating on the rest of the team. But if you look yourself in the mirror, you probably know that, well, some of the plays against Michigan and Michigan State can also be made against Purdue, right? There are some ad-lib improv that you can't coach or teach that give you a chance to extend a drive, make a play, and go get a win. So it is, you just got to cut down on the bad decisions, and to be saying that in this fourth year with this quarterback is driving everybody nuts, because it absolutely pops the balloon, Elijah. That's where I'm at. I think Scott, as we talk here, you get beat 56-0 on the way out the door. Say it ends miserably, where there's a real checkout, a quit, then you got to make a move. Mm-hmm. And even if you go 0-3, but you're keeping with the 2021 theme of almost, I think you can say, look, here's where we're going to be better. Here's how I'm going to make us better. Here's some things I want to change. He's got to have a real hard look at his offense. He's got to have a real hard look at his offense and what they can't do and don't do, and that's have an identity. He's got to have a real hard look at changing that up, or at least tweaking it so you can go back to a basic. Every defense has a base. Let's go play base, right? When it's hitting the fan, let's play base. Well, on offense, Elijah, they got to be able to go run some plays and settle it down. Back in the day, that was option, that was toss power, that was ISO, that was play action, option pass, right? You had your base. Well, you don't have a base on offense. It's asking your quarterback to make some plays. It's hit some big yardage plays, but ultimately they end up being a lot of times empty calories. And last part, and I'll shut up. You need to be able to just stick with what's working until it's stopped. And to me, that was the run game. It's the run game. You go for $115 in the first half, and then you get down, there's a turnover, and you panic, and you start chucking the ball, and Adrian either doesn't trust who was out there at receiver or is a bit yippy himself because he's not 100%. That's been the case. When he's not been 100%, he's been way off with accuracy and turnovers, and you got to corral that. And if he can't get right, it's okay to let him watch unless he goes into a tailspin where it's a confidence issue. And by year 4, that shouldn't happen. So there's a mess. I don't think at this point in time, Trev's real wild about making a move. And I think he's going to give Mr. Homegrown every opportunity to have that long runway. Beyond buyout, beyond fan fervor, beyond booster feedback, I think he wants to be there to help Scott along. And Scott's got to be better. The team's got to be better. Trev knows that. He'll demand that, and I think he can help him get there. But I have a doubt. I have a real doubt because you're dropping games against teams, Elijah, that you're supposed to beat. You're favored to beat. It's not just getting up for Michigan or Michigan State or Oklahoma. It's you're 0-3 against teams that, I mean, you're the worst team in the West, period, aside from Northwestern, who you mauled, and Northwestern's awful.
And there's 3 noticeable places on this team that is letting the rest of the team down. It's offensive line, it's quarterback, and it's running back. Those are the 3 places over.
You got to call a run play, though, brother.
Over the course of the year, those are the 3 places that are letting Nebraska down. I haven't seen a single running back, aside from Ramir Johnson, improve during his time at Nebraska in the Scott Frost tenure. And Ramir Johnson, let's not forget, he started the year 5th on the depth chart. So what is so wildly wrong with your talent evaluation at the running back position that Ramir Johnson is starting 5th on the depth chart? And you look at the quarterback position, they haven't been able to bring in anybody that can challenge Adrian Martinez. And you haven't seen noticeable improvement from Adrian Martinez. Marginal improvement, sure. Noticeable improvement, the type of improvement you'd expect over 4 years, not at all. And then
consistency, right?
And then on the offensive line, they are not living up to the talent and the size and the potential that they have bringing these guys in. These guys are coming in as 4- and 5-star recruits predominantly along the offensive line, and you're not seeing that. The guys that are doing the best on the offensive line is your center, who was not a center when he came here. I think Nuruddin's done a good job since he stepped in at left guard, and let's not forget he was a transfer from Colorado State. And then you really have a right guard, a right tackle, and a left tackle that are all pretty highly touted recruits, 4- and 5-stars that aren't living up to the billing. So those are the three places I think are letting down the entire rest of the team, and Scott's got to make a change. Scott's got to figure out how to fix those three problem areas.
Well, and to your point about running back, it's like it was come to Jesus time with Ramir, where you got to run hard all the time or you're done. That was the challenge held to him as the season started, and it's happened. It paid off.
But there hasn't been a single other running back in the past 3 years that showed noticeable improvement.
No, I'm not arguing with you. No, I mean it's been a desert of 4-star recruits carrying the football either behaviorally or they transfer out, or Greg Bell's running for a grand now at San Diego State, but had some sort of either attitude or translation problem when it came to what he was not doing at practice or what he wanted to do in games but wouldn't show in practice. It's a mess. We're here all hour to talk about it. Open phone lines. Jump in with Nebraska football thoughts. Do you still care? Are your juices flowing here for the opportunity against Ohio State?
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Open phones here. Dial up 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Are you expecting a competitive ball game on Saturday against the Buckeyes? And here's my question for you. Does this team rally around Coach Frost? Do they rally for Frost? Do they rally for themselves? That's the vibe I got. It wasn't necessarily rah-rah today. Let's go win one for Mr. Wood River. No, I think there's pride in a guy like Cam Taylor-Britt. There's pride to respond from a quarterback in Adrian Martinez. And and we'll hear from Frost in just a moment here on, is his job in danger? Anybody else, it's a slam dunk. It's a no-brainer. Anybody else, it's a situation where it's not working. Thanks for your 4 years. Bill Callahan, Grandpa Riley, and then it was working wins and loss. I know there were some embarrassing losses mixed in, but you were still winning 9 and 10 ball games with Bobo and Fearless Frank, right? I mean, let's just anyone else. It's not a conversation. This isn't anyone else. This is the guy you brought back because he gets it, and in reality, he's still trying to figure it out. The other reality is Nebraska right now is, as a Nebraska fan and just growing up here and watching the program as long as I have, you had your layup games, your teams. Well, Nebraska is now the layup. It used to be Iowa State or Kansas. In the Big Ten, it's not Illinois. It's not Minnesota. It's not Purdue. It's supposed to be you're the layup in the Big Ten. Nebraska may fight like hell for you or when they play you, but eventually they're going to screw it up. And there you go. Let's go to the phones. Terry, thanks for kicking us off. Go ahead. Thanks for calling Hail Varsity.
Hey, I was just kind of wondering where you think Smothers' head is at, because after that fourth pick, granted the fourth one was off a deflection, aren't you thinking, like, you need to give somebody else a shot?
Absolutely. After the shuffle pass, you say, go sit by Mario. And Smothers, you come in. Here's the reality, Terry. I think Logan's a work in progress throwing the ball. Okay, and I mean I'm not sneaking into practice, so that's just my gut. And the way Scott talked that Logan's really working on it. But you can go in there and run your sprint orb option with Smothers as a ball carrier. You let him carry it when Adrian was getting his jaw looked at for a couple of drives against Michigan State, and he moved the team before they all started jumping off sides. From a poison decision-making standpoint, I'm not bashful at all to put Smothers in. I think he's ready, and I don't think he'd do anything to jeopardize the football. That's not what you say about your fourth-year guy right now.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't do any worse. I mean, and it's crazy to think that, we recover that onside kick and we have a chance to drive to win.
It's just too perfect, the way this season's gone. Roller coaster. You knew it was going to come down to it. Sitting next to Sharpie, and he turns to me and he's like, "Dude, they're going to get a chance. They're going to onside it. Nebraska's are going to recover." And next thing you know, it's poor Cam Taylor-Britt's getting blown up because someone misses an assignment. Right? Everyone else went and tried to clear out their lane. And Cam's got it, and then just gets ripped.
Yeah, can't we catch a break? Jeez.
And you got to make your own, Terry. And this team hasn't made their own, but you're right. They do need a break, and maybe all the breaks happen to keep this thing interesting Saturday.
Well, I'm a season ticket holder, and I went to the Oklahoma and Michigan State games this year, and I don't think Frost is in danger of losing his job. But, I mean, it's just people are getting tired of it, that's for sure. No,
Terry, appreciate you listening, man. Thanks for the phone call. Yeah, I don't think it could get real ugly, and you could have to have a tougher conversation, Elijah. But Scott's not acting like a guy that has got to be buying a U-Haul or several boxes for the office. Let's hear from Scott real quick about job security. All right, and he was asked about that here today. The outside noise, job speculation, is it weighing on you? Because it's there, and it was out in full force over the weekend. It was pretty adamant. This dude's got to go. It's not working. It's not going to happen. Need to move on. I mean, Nebraska fans, God bless you. Your patience have been tried for the last 2 decades, and it's been reset. Well, this is one where you're going to have to be patient with it and exhausted here. Outside job speculation, cut 11. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong sheet. Elijah's saying, "Dude, you're speaking Chinese to me." What 11 do you speak of?
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm thinking.
Cut 6. I am sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'll stop drinking.
I don't pay any attention to it. It's kind of hard to ignore all, talk in any situation. There's an article written about me 6 games into my first year, and we came off undefeated and lost our first 6 here, and they were already writing stuff. You learn as a coach not to pay any attention to that. I owe it to the kids to give them my everything, so do the coaches, and we are. And the kids are giving us everything they got right back because of our relationship with those guys. And everything else doesn't matter. We can only control what we can control.
So, listen, you hear it. You try not to pay attention to it. More from Frost here, and he was asked about how long should the turnaround take, and that's really the sticking point, isn't it? Year 4, it's supposed to happen. The Savior's back, and it hasn't. But you've seen progress, but that progress has been whittled away because of the way you've lost. It's one thing to be competitive against the big dogs, but the way you've lost to some of the teams you've been favored to beat is ridiculous. You can't come off a bye week and have a garbage second half. You can't go into Minnesota ahead of a bye week and have a garbage first half. And just from a management standpoint, Contreras has looked fine. He should have been kicking after Oklahoma. Period. More from Frost here on job security, his future, and the turnaround that hasn't happened yet.
We're close. I don't want to overstep here, but I'm really excited about the rest of this year. I'm really excited about next year. I hope we get it. I think we should. And like I said, with the young guys we got coming back and an opportunity to go out and get a few more pieces to add to that, I think this thing could be really good. I really thought this year it would pop, and and we've been so close. When you're so close and you don't get it done, that unfortunately you have a mindset when we got here that we've been beat a lot. Winning's a habit, losing's a habit. Trying to break that cycle just takes a few wins in a row and some momentum and a little more belief. The kids believe, but you really believe when it happened. Gosh, we've been so close. I just want to see it happen for these guys.
Well, you need the old Ted Lasso believe sign above the old office door. It needs to happen on the field. Frost was asked about it. We hope we get it. It being what? Wins or a year 5? And he clarified.
It to happen? Yeah. Wins.
I think we should.
No, we got to get the wins. The wins take care of everything. And despite all the improvement that I've seen, that hasn't improved. And, we've had a tough schedule and played some really good teams. Got to get them done. And we've been so close, got to get them done. And that's the nature of the business. I understand that. The kids understand that. And we'll keep fighting every day to make it happen.
Email in. We'll get to the email inbox here, chris@hailvarsity.com. Al chimed in. All season, the defense has given up 8 to 10-yard out patterns. Purdue took advantage. And, what is pressure? And he's not talking about hot seat or coaching pressure, but more so getting after the quarterback. That's really an area I'd add to your question marks. What can be better here these final 3 off-season into 2022? O-line, running back, quarterback play. You're right on about that with Elijah. You got to find somebody to go get after the quarterback and help out the secondary. And I know Nebraska is going to throw the upstairs and downstairs kitchen sink at Ohio State to try and heat up the freshmen. But for the most part, it's been inconsistent with their pressure. Purdue they had quick throws, right? But you still didn't harass them. 2 sacks, 2 hurries, and 45 dropbacks. Meanwhile, you've got both of your tackles at Nebraska that allowed, I believe, a sack and at least 12 hurries again. And again, you're taking on an NFL guy, but everyone else in the league's got to play the rest of the NFL edge rusher that Minnesota and Purdue and Ohio State and Iowa and Wisconsin and Penn State. All these other squads got a dude that get off the edge or 2 or 3.
And it's not a coincidence that it becomes much harder to throw the ball against a team that has one of those guys. And it's not a coincidence that Nebraska hasn't really had good, I should say great defenses since they've had an NFL-type pass rusher on their defensive roster. That's whenever you have your best defense. That's a big, probably the only glaring hole in the defense that I'm seeing so far is no pass rusher. But if you watch that game on Saturday, the defense wasn't the issue. The defense wasn't the problem. The offense put them in some really, really horrible places.
Things should have been 24-14 going into half. At worst, 20-14. Mm-hmm. But I go back to the decision to not stick with your run game. You panic, you start chucking it, and you don't have possessions because you're turning it over. You're going 3 and out. My worry, Elijah, is if they don't. I think it really if they get hammered Saturday, it could go south. Mm-hmm. If they have another mind-boggling 32-29, you were right there against a top 5 again, and don't get it done, I think that's when the bow breaks for the rest of the season. Period. Because you got a bye week. You can probably muster up some pride for Wisconsin.
You don't think the bow's already broken on this season?
I just don't. I am buying what I saw today as far as the right guys in front of the microphone. We'll hear from Cam Taylor-Britt here, where they're still wanting to fight. I think they're still wanting to fight. Good on them. More thoughts from you. Open phones the next 20 minutes. Hail Varsity Radio.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Coming up next hour, a couple of black shirts. The Godfather, Charlie McBride. Mondays with Charlie in 20 minutes. And then Jay Moore, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up. He'll join us And we're talking about Coach Frost and kind of the vibe here from the presser today. Elijah, we'll dive into the emails here in a moment, but we go back to Minnesota. We go back. There's a lot of moments this year that you can talk about what if and what could have been, and that same song, another verse. But you go back to Minnesota. The defense right now is ready to scream at the offense. And I thought that after we got back from Minnesota 2 weeks ago Monday, where you're right there, you're inside the 10, inside the 5, you're at the 1, you don't get in, then you miss a field goal, and you have, 6 straight stops at one point in that game, and then you fast forward to the Purdue game where you're up 7-0, you throw a pick 6, and now it's tied. Now it's tied. The offense does respond the following drive with another touchdown to go up 14-7, but then Purdue gets a little bit of momentum, a little mojo. They tie things up. You miss the shot to Toure after being up 17-14. Then you come out and you 3-and-out it. Defense for most of the third quarter held strong, and then it was too much. They've got about 100,000 miles on each tire right now, going into Ohio State, going into Wisconsin, going into Iowa. They have carried and done yeoman work all season long. They've not been perfect. But I think when we talk about, energy, they exerted so much where they willed the team to an almost win again with Michigan State. I think that's where it started. Then it followed. We can start with Oklahoma. But then the way they followed up the Oklahoma performance with Michigan State, and then you get to Michigan, and it's just, we talk complimentary football a lot during the Frost era because it hasn't existed. But it's really bad this year. It's like almost 2009 bad, where the offense doesn't have an answer, or here's some water and a towel, sorry, D, right? You're just not seeing it. And the way they came out against Purdue in the first half and the way they ran the football, this was just straight-up decision-making and turnovers that killed this team Saturday.
Well, it was the fact that well, if we want to have a nice little comparison here, it's Minnesota put this team in the hospital. Purdue has smothered them and buried the hole, and now Ohio State's waiting with shovels, ready to bury this Husker football team. That's how it feels.
Minnesota put them in the hospital. Purdue has the pillow, a la Tony Soprano.
And then they got their goons in the back digging the hole.
Right.
And now Purdue is just ready to throw Nebraska in that hole and cover them with dirt. That's how it feels like this season's going. Based on, you could feel it in that Purdue game. It was the pick 6, and it was that pass just out of the hands of Smarch, where you could feel the momentum in that stadium just shift. Everyone in the stands, I felt like that standing in the stands was, oh, here we go again. This Nebraska team is ready to blow it. And the defense, they felt that too. You can see that in the second half. Everything, the whole energy of the team, the momentum just felt different in the second half, because I think that Minnesota performance has, we talked about the split last year. I think it split this team again. There's the offense, the special teams, and then there's the defense. The defense is holding up their end of the bargain, but it's hard to hold up your end of the bargain whenever just as we've talked about the Husker team not expecting to win, expecting to lose. This Husker defense is expecting things to go wrong for the Husker offense, and they're expecting it does not matter how good of an effort we put in on Saturday, the Husker offense will lose this game for us. That's how it feels.
No, let's hear from Cam Taylor-Britt, because he got a little bit further in depth when it comes to what was said. He's one of the captains. He's one of the voices post-game. And this was, they're pretty open and honest. And this is, he didn't say this was directed at Adrian, but this is how I'm taking it. Do your job. Don't overdo, because 4 turnovers, 3 of them horribly forced. Just can't do it. Can't live that way.
We got a couple games left. Don't give up now. I'm a senior. I'm not giving up nothing. You're going to see me play 110% till I'm on the field, laid out on the grass. That's what you're going to see from me, man. I was just telling the other guys, it's not over, bro. I understand, we may have some losses under our belt and not the wins that we want, but it's still football. You came here to play football. You've been playing football your whole life. Why stop now?
Keep on going. Got to do your job. Email in from Greg in Michigan. If you're trying to get through, keep trying. 466-3776 or 800-825-5865. Greg says, put me down for we need change. I've seen enough of the same old for 4 years. Really wanted it to work with Frost, but it hasn't. No indication it will. No idea who the next coach should be. And that is your absolute knee-jerk reaction from a lot of Husker Nation after you lose to Purdue, after you lose to Minnesota. You're exhausted from it, and you don't even put the helmet on. Our friends from Columbus, Shane, emails in. Can email Chris@HailVarsity.com. Chris and Elijah, the discussions I've had with friends and family all come to the agreement that we don't have to decide what's best for the program. That's Trev's job. We're just going to sit back and let things play out. Definitely not looking forward to a coaching search again, and maybe that won't have to happen. Yeah, I'm just going to sit back. And I can make bold, declarative, well, if he doesn't beat Ohio State, he's done. I don't believe that. Because of who it is, and that's debatable whether or not you should get the family discount, so to speak. But it's true. It's the reality.
It's all about the direction of the program. That's what it comes down to here. And Bo Pelini had plateaued. Mike Riley was going down with the direction of the program. And based on the results I have seen this football season, for the most part this year, it felt like the team has been moving in an upward direction. Now, the past 2 weeks have changed that narrative just a little bit. So
is this team going to be the team that plays up to their competition? They get up for somebody that's ranked and unbeaten. I know Ohio State's not, but you've seen the best performances of the year against the toughest teams. And you've seen garbage halves against some of the worst teams not named Northwestern. So they are just all sorts of funny. I don't know, man. As we get closer to Friday, I got a weird feeling about this. Right? I just do. I really have a weird feeling about Saturday, not in the oh, dear God, it's going to be an annihilation. I don't feel like it's going to be 2017 or 2019 all over again. Well, I just don't. Let's hear from Cam Taylor. Do we have time to squeeze him in a little bit more? Mm-hmm. Let's hear 16 here. All right. His message to the team.
We just heard that.
Okay, 15, my fault.
There we go.
Everybody's trying to hear his same speech, man. We go back and forth, about the same things day in and day out. And then we get to the weekend and we have the same result. It's the same speech. So he'd rather, hear from the players because it's really a heart-to-heart thing. And we're on the field together. He's not on the field with us. He's, our head coach, and we feel for him. But, us players have been here a long time. It hasn't been a change yet, so I feel like they need to feel that from us. To change this culture, man. They came in today, you can see a change in practice.
Hey, change is good if it means a different Saturday. We'll wind down hour one next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour. Charlie McBride's 10 minutes away. Vic needed the Medicaid, bless his soul. With the Purdue game. So, question Vic has is, do we need a new coach or do we need a new staff? Staff changes. And I would vote for some tweaks on the staff. And he's like, well, what if Adrian stays? And I'm like, then if Adrian wants to stay, they need to go out and find a quarterback that can take Adrian's job for next year.
Yep.
Unless he morphs into something these final three and turns over a new leaf where your quarterback's never going to be perfect, all right? But you got to have a better decision maker. You got a guy that's going to play. And I think Adrian is tough. But when you're not 100%, you can't be so far off of what you looked like against Michigan or Oklahoma. You got to be able to play up to a same level, hurt, injured, or not. And you're not getting that. The thing that's interesting too is seeing this offense, and like if I'm Trev, I want to talk to him about some position coaches. want to talk to him about his offensive philosophy. Is this Oregon thing really what we're going to keep trying to do? It looks cool between the 20s. And this Oregon thing looks really awesome when you got a guy like Mariota or Milton. Okay? But I want to see Scott with a different quarterback. Because you haven't seen that, really. I mean, who? You've seen Mac and Adrian. That's it.
You had one game with Vedral.
Sure, but and what happened? Fumble at the 20. And I love Vedral's money. I mean, he's good, great athlete, good ball player, starting quarterback in the Big Ten. But it's no, give me a different look at quarterback. Give me a different look at quarterback. And listen, Adrian's going to give you the best chance to win. You're stuck with his upside and his mistakes. Okay, you just are. So you just hope those continue to go 10-1 ratio-wise in the right way. You can miss a throw, you can throw a pick, but it can't be a pick six, and it can't be a missed throw at the end of the half to give you a 10-point lead. I mean, that's just it.
I mean, the offense can go as far as Adrian can take them, and right now, as far as Adrian can take them is to a one-score loss.
Well, and he's taken him to be in a lot of ball games, but I'm just over the forcing it, and it all kind of comes down to the want to. You want to help your defense out. You want to help your teammates out. It isn't about glory or being on SportsCenter. It's I'm trying to make something happen, and it's all a trickle down where somebody screams in off the edge because you're dropping back the pass on second and short to take your shot. Because you can play with that down and distance and still theoretically go pick it up on third down. Except there's a shuffle pass that's intercepted. But don't make it harder than it is. Run the ball till Purdue stops you. Purdue got body blowed to death by Wisconsin. Wisconsin threw the ball 8 times. That's it. And you had success in the first half running the ball. Coach McBride's next. Hour 2 with Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Thanks for hanging out. Great to be with you. Hour 2 at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah. Keep the emails coming. Get to more of your calls here. Coming up, Black Shirt Jay Moore on the way. We heard Coach Frost talk about his future. He was asked about it today at the presser. We welcome in Mr. Blackshirt himself, Charlie McBride, a Monday with Charlie. Coach, how was the weekend?
Yeah, it was good. It was just a lot of rain and just watching football games. That was it. That's all I could do.
Hey, that's all right. That's a good weekend. Now, it's good to watch football. Results, though, my friend, are some things that the fan base, the coaching staff, the kids, they want a different result. Let's go back to Purdue before we talk Ohio State and what stuck out to you about the loss.
Well, I think it just at times we looked like we were just sluggish, and especially at the beginning of the game, it just looked like, it didn't seem like there were many people getting to the ball like I've seen in some games, and it kind of was that way almost the whole game. There were some spurts there, but I just I wonder if some of these guys are in shape. I don't know if anybody, over the weekend, just over the week, if you don't run and you don't stay in shape, you're going to lose. It's the old saying, it's hard to build something up and it's easy to lose something, and to tear it down. And it's easy to do that. And it's just like quitting, it's easy to do that. But those are the things that kind of concern me a little bit. It just looked like we were, not really there. As far as really getting after it and doing things. Maybe it was just me. Maybe it was the day.
Sure.
The day was raining and lousy. So it just, it kind of, I got a little discouraged with their effort. Just going after people, going downfield and blocking, our outside people blocking. They didn't do a great job. And if, those are the things if you're going to make a running game. And they've got a decent running game. They're running about fourth in the conference and things like that. The passing, not so, they're fifth or so. And then, they're offensively, you look in the conference stuff, they're not in bad shape. We're playing a team that's first in about everything. There's only about 4 things that we're even with them, or maybe ahead of them a little bit. But they're still not perfect. That's for sure.
Charlie McBride's
anyway, I just think that they, they got to turn it up a notch and on both sides of the ball. And when you come off the line of scrimmage and I see the other team beating us off the line of scrimmage, then I know we're in trouble. And they were beating us off the line of scrimmage at times. Their offensive line was way off. I mean, we were just catching. So we got to get, we've got to get motored.
Coach, what do you make of the quarterback's performance with Adrian and some of his decision making? The turnovers were the story of this game, and Scott didn't really verbalize wanting to go to the backup. That speaks to, what do you have behind your starter? He's not been really right since Michigan, honestly. And if you're the defense, you're all one team, you're all one family. You've said that a lot. That said, you can get ticked at your family with just not kind of holding up their end, and the offense has been so inconsistent. It feels like the defense is trying or is having to do it all.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's exactly what it is, and I don't know. I don't know whether it's just the youngness of our offensive line. Here's the way I look at football, and I mean, you can talk to anybody you want in football. If your offensive line and your defensive line are going to make the difference in probably 90% of the football games. And if you can't protect the passer, you're in trouble. And so a lot of times you look and you say, well, he did this or he did that, and it didn't look good and didn't look that. Well, when you have pressure on yourself all the time, you got to get to a point where, you get frustrated yourself and you lose some of the confidence in yourself, and you don't know whether that might be part of the problem. But I think that one of the things is what I hated to see was try to shuffle the ball up the field. That was, I've seen him try that before and do it again. Know he was wrong and do it again, but do it again. And sometimes you have to go a little farther than saying after 4 years of doing the same things, you wonder, about some of the other things that go along with coaching. I mean, you have to, you just wonder if, you got the right people there coaching them or whatever it is. I don't know. I mean, I can't say that, but, sometimes you'd think there'd be some really drastic improvement in 4 years.
Well, that's just it is, how much better has he gotten, and he's your best shot, honestly, and that's kind of what it comes down to. Charlie McBride's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, were you surprised that Nebraska went away from the run game like they did in the second half? I know it got real funky in the second half with the turnovers and time of possession, but Nebraska didn't stick with the run, or they got away from it.
Turnovers and everything blow up your game plan. I mean,
I get you.
It's just you're trying to do something and establish some things, and you get a turnover, and And I'll tell you, there's a huge connection between the offense and the defense. And I'll say, I mean, as far as they got to complement each other. And when one goes haywire, and it gets and I put this on just being a lot of times just a lot of young people, but we still have most of our defensive leaders are older guys in the secondary and so forth, and they've got to hold up, and get after people and get on the sideline and encourage them to go and things like that. They can't just go over there and sit down on the bench and put their head down and say, well, this is happening again, and sometimes it looks like that. And if you're trying to get out of a funk, there's only one way to do it, and that's just play as hard as you can on every play, and that isn't happening.
Charlie McBride's with us here at Hail Varsity Radio, and Charlie, you talk about that connection between the offense and the defense. And playing complementary football, and they really didn't have much of that against Minnesota when you think about the fact that Nebraska's offense made it down inside the 25-yard line 4 times and couldn't come up with any points in the second half. And then this past week, they're putting the defense in bad spots with turnovers. Think about that pick 6. So would you say the connection between the offense and the defense has effectively been broken on this team? And if it has, are you worried about what this team is going to do to finish the year if the defense can't trust what the offense is going to be doing on the field?
Well, I know the one thing is that our guys, I used to listen to them talk. I mean, when they go on the field, if our offense isn't doing well, then the defensive guys are going to be, let's go, we got to do this. And they know that it's their responsibility now for the offense to save them, to help them out, and if you do well, they're going to start doing well. And I mean, it works both ways. And, sometimes, that there are some younger guys that maybe point some fingers and that stuff doesn't go, and if that's a cancer. And so, it's got to be, you have to do your job and to look at other people and make excuses that we're not doing this because they're not doing this or vice versa. I mean, I don't care what the quarterback does. I think when these guys get the ball in their hands, that they got to go. They got to make up for him. If he's having a bad day. Mm-hmm. And because I know that I've been around football enough to know that guys, if they're going to have a team, you got to fight for each other. I mean, you just have to.
Coach, what do you make of some of the speculation out there with Coach Frost and Trev better than anybody? I don't. Scott didn't act like today he was worried about his job or his future. I mean, he was really pretty comfortable and pretty genuine, and I think there's a lot of season left. And they're focused on Ohio State. We'll get to the Buckeyes in a moment. But what do you think Trev's thinking or watching for right now?
Well, I don't think Trev isn't. If he's talking about something crazy, right now, I mean that doesn't sound like the right thing to do.
And he's not. I mean, we haven't heard anything from him. So
yeah, we got 3 games, and I don't think there is anything to. I mean, I think when you start looking at all the different factors involved financially and everything else, you wonder, that's a little over the top. And I don't think, I know that we've had some trouble in the past, but there's other ways to make changes and there's other ways to do things. And you've got a lot of, what you've done in the last 4 years that have been wrong. Maybe there needs to be a big change in some of the things they're thinking as far as whether it's practice, whether it's, people and so forth. I mean, I don't, it's, how you handle your substitution and how you handle the clock and how you handle all these different things that you can do in the off season and make it a point to improve those things. But I think it's a serious deal, and I think, if he's got a plan, and Trev's got a plan, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't want to even guess at anything like that because I'm not even around there and I don't know the lay of the land exactly. But there's things you see just of being a coach, in the past and I've been at failures. I've been at Wisconsin. We had 5 losing seasons. So I know what it smells like, and a lot of times it's just because you don't have people, and in those days we didn't have the walk-ons and we'd get our quarterback hurt right away. And then that's the end of that tune. So you're playing with somebody,
You made it real quick and clear there.
Yeah. You get a couple of linemen hurt on either side of the ball and you don't have the depth in that. Mm-hmm. In those days, they had numbers, but you didn't have the kind of players that you have now.
Coach, want to get your thoughts on Ohio State? How's Nebraska keep this thing close, keep it interesting, keep it within striking distance?
And play their hearts out, just play like hell, play together and play, just give it all they got. Mm-hmm. But you got nothing to be ashamed of if you play as hard as you can. I mean, you look at some of the games and they can do it. They can get around. I'll tell you, I'm in reality, I'm kind of thrilled to death with the way the linebackers are playing. I think they're playing very, very well. And I think the defensive line is playing okay, mm-hmm. But there's a lot of things fundamentally they got to learn. And, the secondary, who knows? If you start looking at, when statistically in defense, when you start looking at that pass defense for Ohio State, they're 12th. Mm-hmm. They're 12th in the conference. Well, we're only 8th, I think it is, mm-hmm. around in there. And that's not even in the upper half, but it's still better. And, things like that. So there's a lot of things that are good. Maybe we can throw the ball against them. I don't know. I think we can do both. I mean, if you've got a good enough bunch of guys there that can do both, when they put their mind to it and they concentrate on it, you'd be surprised what these guys can do. I mean, really. I don't think they know what they can do if they really do that and focus on every play. I mean, every play, what you're doing, tackling, everything. Not just diving around on the ground and doing stuff like that. I mean, if you really take into this serious business, then you got a chance.
Well, we'll be here for it, ready to go at 11 for Nebraska, Ohio State. Coach, get your popcorn and stay warm and get in front of the TV for Saturday, okay?
Yeah, well, don't be surprised if they blow their socks off, not Ohio State. Don't be surprised if our guys win. I mean, it won't be a surprise to me. I'll tell you that, because it's about time something really good has happened.
Coach, the old we're due, right?
Okay.
We're overdue. Coach, you be good, stay healthy, and thanks for the time today.
Okay. Thanks for having me. I'll talk to you later.
All right, Coach.
Bye now.
See, Coach has got that feeling.
The law of averages would lead you to believe that Nebraska is due to win, 10 of their next 12 one-score games?
Right.
Law of averages.
So you're even. And Coach hit on some good points. It's not cheerleader Charlie. It's like, look, if they put their mind to it, they can put a scare in to the Buckeyes or maybe more. The Black Shirt Hour continues. Jay Moore next on Hail Varsity.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Black Shirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it, Hail Varsity Radio, a Monday here, Nebraska, Ohio State this week. Still, I don't know if we're using staples, if they're stitches. Beyond Band-Aid, third straight loss for Nebraska, tough one at home to Purdue. We bring in Blackshirt Husker NFLer and co-host Big Red Wrap-Up, Jay Moore, with us. A little Blackshirt love today. Jay Bird, how was the weekend, and at what point did you think things shifted for the worse? There's always a tipping point moment with Nebraska football and close ball games. What was that moment for you?
Yeah, man, it's tough. Early on, Nebraska, they felt like they were pretty much in control of that football game. And, they got a couple breaks. But right away when Adrian threw that pick six and it was 7-7, I'm like, oh, boy. You kind of get that. And then, when you don't hit that pass to Toure right before half, Nebraska gets a fourth down stop. You get opportunity to steal points and get the ball back. You almost steal possession, and that doesn't happen. And then you come out flat again in the second half. You're like, man, you have to – this team just is not – other than, Northwestern, and I don't know if you really count, Fordham and Buffalo, but when it comes to in a Big Ten play, they just – you can just go down the list of games. They're just giving opportunities to other teams. Are like, here you go. Take control of this football game. Here's momentum. Here's, Brom goes for it on 4th and 1. You stop him. You get the ball back with a minute and a half left, and I think a timeout. And then, it's Toure. Boom. It's what 27-14. At half instead of 17. 14. It's like, man. Then you get the ball back, get a chance to get points. You really can kind of put your foot on the throats, but they just don't do it, and it's very disappointing. It's alarming, obviously, very alarming. And I'm not sure what to make of it, because it's been happening for many, many years. And, those are many instances. But, yeah, I would look at the pick six and then obviously not getting points before half when you easily could have with getting the ball back. And then just the no-show from the offense in the second half was totally inexcusable when that's actually happened, 2 weeks in a row. Or, obviously there's a bye week in there, but it happens again in the second week like it did against Minnesota, and it's coming off a bye week, so that makes it even more inexcusable in my point.
Jay Moore's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Jay, I don't get why you're up and it's 2nd and 1, and it's a chance to take a shot. Totally get it, but it's kind of a version of a trick play. You lose yards, and then Adrian doesn't get the yard needed. It's 3rd and 4. He runs for 3 and doesn't put his head down. Mm-hmm. Scott just wants to kind of do it his way with a certain look, it feels like, on offense. And you went away from running the ball. Now, I know you didn't have the ball a lot in the second half, but, man, the reason you built a lead is because you had pretty good balance. You were able to hit some shots downfield, but you were running the ball, and then you went away from it. Why do you think that is? What's your take on this scheme and Frost's ability to just continue to stick with it when, quite honestly, it's a situation where it's costing his defense time on the field, and they're out of sync a lot. It's not as consistently flowing as it needs to be. What do you do on offense?
Yeah, the offense has he's the offensive guy. He's calling the plays. We know that, and how wrong are we all thinking that this was going to be? When he's coming in here, we thought, okay, his offense is going to average 40-some points a game. Hopefully the defense will just get enough stops to make this thing happen. It's going to be a complete role reversal. The defense has gotten all the stops, and offense can't take advantage of it. And it seems at times, I don't know if he gets deterred or he presses, something doesn't happen the way he wants it to, and he starts to press a little bit, and then that doesn't work. And then I don't know. It's like, when you press and you're just almost trying too hard, it just doesn't happen. Almost like he doesn't let the game kind of come to him a little bit. I know it's football, and you want to be able to, make your move and hey, this is what we're going to do, and I'm going to make sure it's going to happen. That's one thing, but also I don't know if the patience is an issue at times. It's like, hey, okay, let's stick in this thing. Let's do our thing. Let's manage the clock. Let's flip the field. Just doesn't seem like sometimes those game management things, he doesn't make the right moves at times. And I don't know if, like I said, it's pressing or what exactly it is, but it hasn't added up in 4 years. You can say, oh yeah, their offensive output's better, sure, from total yards, but they're just not scoring points, period. The red zone's still an issue, then obviously you can throw the kicking game in that wrench, and that's its own issue. But I'm not quite sure where it all comes from. I think it's obviously a little bit to do with everything. I think Adrian has his own issues at times. I think the offensive line has his own issues at times. I think the inability to this running back room is still a puzzle to me. But you got to be able to run the football in this league, and you got to be able to stick with it. And sometimes I don't know if he just gets impatient and something doesn't go with it. He just says the hell with it. We're going to do this, or he scraps this game plan. I don't know. I'm not in the meetings, but it just doesn't add up to me right now, and it's obviously very evident because in year 4, in the last 2 years, this defense has outplayed the offense heavily. And like I said earlier, that was going to be a major surprise to me, because I thought it was going to be vice versa. We thought this offense is just going to keep rolling and rolling every game because what you'd seen, whether it was Oregon or Central Florida or whatever, but it's just not the case. And I don't know. It's a little bit of everything. Inconsistencies from Adrian, inconsistencies from the offensive line. Guys who's not stepping and making plays they need to, and then you do press. And I think that's what you kind of see right now.
Jay Moore is with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Jay, I want to get your take on what was happening at the beginning of the fourth quarter with a noticeable number of fans heading for the stands. Do you think that's something that will stick in the mind of Trev Alberts? Or, Coach Frost said he didn't notice it, but it seemed to be something where Husker fans knew what was coming. They knew how that fourth quarter was going to go, and they hit the exits early. Do you have a take on that whole situation?
Yeah, that's just apathy at its finest. I knew you can just get a feel for it. And I knew when they went up, late in that fourth, again, they got another score, or early in the fourth, I'm like, this thing's a wrap. You get a feel. And they did have an opportunity. They should have got the onside kick, but you just get a feel for it. It's a similar feel to the Minnesota game, and it's odd. People just know. And people are just frankly tired of it. It's one thing to compete with Michigan and Michigan State and Oklahoma, but when you can't beat the teams you're supposed to beat, people get very annoyed with that, and myself included. How you look so good one week against teams technically you're not supposed to beat, and the teams that you are supposed to beat and are a touchdown plus favorite against, you come out and look like you didn't even practice during the bye week in some areas. So it's very concerning. And I don't know what's going to look like at 11 a.m. against Ohio State. I can't imagine it's going to look very good because I know what people are probably expecting. Ohio State's running on all cylinders right now, and I'm not very confident in this team. These last 3 games. I don't know what the staff or how everyone else feels, but I don't foresee them getting to 6-6 at all. That's definitely for sure. But I think everyone's kind of the same boat. Apathy is very, very real. You had it after the first game, the loss at Illinois, and you kind of got them back. You pulled them, reeled them back in with a couple wins, a nice performance against Oklahoma, and in two games you probably should have won in Michigan and Michigan State, and then boom, you've laid 2 huge eggs the last 2 weeks, and people are like, we've seen this before. We've seen this many, many times before, and there's people who are tired of watching a crappy movie, and they're just like, we're out. We've paid for this and don't need to see it anymore, and I can't blame them.
Few minutes here. Jay Moore is with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Big Red wrap-up. You watch him Tuesday nights on NETV. Goes to that Blackshirt Husker NFLer. Jay, when it comes to the future of Frost, with Trev, what's your feel, man? What's your feel on this? And I know we can talk about 3-9 or 4-8 or 5-7 or 6-6, like if you're the eternal optimist. But as I sit right now, we talked about this a little earlier, I just don't think, as we sit here on a Monday after 2 losses, right, to teams you're supposed to beat, there's this appetite to make a move if you're Trev. Now, his hand may be forced on things, but as it sits right now, there's still, a third of the season left, and let's just see how it plays out. What's your read on this big picture?
Yeah, I don't think Trev wants to make a move. I don't think I mean, I know beginning of the year, you can see, the previous he said the previous 3 years weren't going to factor into his decision. But I firmly believe he does not want to, but he might be forced into a tough decision. If you finish this year 3-9 and lose your last 5 games in a row, and it obviously depends on how it looks and how those losses come. If they still show good fight and they're in them, that'll be one thing. I want this thing to work. I want Scott to be here for many, many more years. I do, but also it's like, man, when's enough? And we thought this year could have been better, and we thought last year could have been. I know last year's a goofy year, but if you're going into year 5 and you had a winning season yet, it's tough. It's tough to force Scott, if you want him to stay, to make drastic coach staff moves. I know he's a very loyal guy. He's been with most of these guys his whole career. At USC and bringing him here, that's a tough move to make him ask. So it's an interesting spot. I wish this team would just figure it out and win some more football games, and that would alleviate this, and we don't have to be talking about. But it's the elephant in your room you got to talk about, because it's just not, team's not getting it done. If you want to say it's a Scott Frost issue or whatever it is, but when it comes down to when you're 3-6 in 1st of November in your 4th year, and unfortunately the guy who's getting paid the most money, and Scott Frost, he's going to shoulder that blame. And I'm not sure where Trev is. I know he does not want to make this decision. I just don't know where he's at right now. I'm sure he's picking some tires and to see, on some really nice tires, and to see what is the moves to make. But if you don't have, if you don't have the right if you have the right person to come in here, I don't even know if whoever that might be. I still think my gut says Scott will be here even next year, going 3-9. I really do, but it's crazier things have happened, and we'll see. I mean, they've got 3 games left, but it's I never thought we'd still be talking about this at this time of year, going into year 4, but I guess here we are.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome! A few minutes left here with Jay Moore. And Jay, I want to get to the quarterback play from Sunday, because we heard Coach Frost say in the post-game press conference that he never thought about benching Adrian and bringing in somebody else, even with Adrian's 4 picks in the game. Are you surprised that we didn't get a chance to see a guy like Logan Smothers or Heinrich Harburg come into that game on Saturday? And do you expect that there will be changes at quarterback going forward this year, or is this just Adrian's job till the end of the year?
I think it's Adrian's job till the end this year. As good as Adrian is at times, he's equally as bad at times with some of his decision making. We haven't seen hardly much of Smothers. It's spurts against Fordham and Buffalo, and a little bit against Northwestern. And now that I would have liked to see him come. Maybe Smothers come in just to say, "Hey, Adrian, let's pump the brakes here for a minute. Let's slow some things down. Let's talk about it. Let's just and just see what Logan can do for a minute." But if they're thinking Adrian, you're giving your best shot to win, that's fair. I understand that. I don't see Monday through Friday practices. But when your quarterback is making very poor decisions, you can honestly blame that whole loss on Adrian. I mean, he easily could have had another pick 6 early in the game that the guy just dropped. I mean, he was walking that thing in. So he could have had 5 interceptions. I know that Austin Allen one wasn't his fault. Austin's got to hang on to that. But he easily could have had 4 picks that were totally on him in that football game. And that game would have been over, I think, a lot quicker. And then so it's I think he's the guy the rest of this year. I don't know if the lease is getting shorter. I'm not totally sure of that. But he's got to play better. I mean, he's still, it's just crazy when a 4th-year guy makes mistakes that freshmen make. And he's made those mistakes the last 2 weeks, with the safety in the end zone against Minnesota, and then some of these throws here he made against Purdue. You're like, man, that's not what a 4th-year guy makes. He doesn't do those things. He doesn't try to, throw a ball out of the pocket while he's getting tackled to a guy, and not see a guy coming or, blindly throw it to a guy sitting underneath on an out route. It's just those are things you can maybe excuse a first or second year guy, but not a fourth year guy. So he needs to play better. I hope Verduzco and Frost are in his ear and get tough on him, get after him a little bit and make him better, because that's Everson Heck's going to cut it. And, and who knows? I mean, if you want to keep riding with him, that might cost him his job, unfortunately. And that's, it's crazy to say again in year 4.
Jay Moore's with us, Blackshirt Husker NFLer. Jay, talk to me about the ingredients of the mother of all upsets Saturday. How does that happen?
Well, Nebraska's got to play their best game of the year, and Ohio State's probably got to play their worst game of the year. Mm-hmm. And you got to be probably +3 in the turnover category. You got to do something crazy on special teams, return a punt, that probably won't happen, but I don't know. I mean, block a field goal, block a punt for points. Something goofy. I just don't foresee it. This one is, I think early spread's 14 and a half, couple touchdowns. I see Ohio State coming in here and playing well. I mean, they're playing for a playoff spot. Nebraska is just playing to, hopefully maybe make a bowl game, and you're playing for pride at this point. So they got a lot of talent, man. That offense and that wide receiver group they got with Olave and Wilson, those guys are big time players. Those are first round draft picks. So it'll be tough. We got to play really good. We got to get some turnovers. Like I said, we got to be +3 in the turnover category at least, and maybe score on special teams. But that's a tough ask at this time of the year, and just what we've dealt with and what we've seen in the last 2 weeks. I mean, that would be I think damn near hell would have to freeze over for that to happen.
Well, it's going to be cold the rest of this week, but about 60 and sunny for the 11 a.m. Bloody Mary Fest. So no hell freezing over Saturday, but we'll see where it goes. Jay, always love catching up with you, brother. We'll be watching on Big Red Wrap Up tomorrow night, and we'll talk soon, man. Thanks for a few minutes.
Yep, no problem.
There he is, Blackshirt Husker NFLer. He's right. I mean, you're going to need some turnovers. Think about how it went in 2018. Nebraska had some shock plays, Gifford and JoJo Doman. Do you dare send JoJo more off the edge as a blitzer this Saturday? Or do you keep him in coverage because Ohio State's got 2 to 3 really high-end wideouts? Right, Olave and is the headliner. You had a freshman quarterback coming in. Stranger things.
But it does put you in a tough position defensively, because those guys are going to get open, and the more guys you drop into, I mean, they're going to no matter how many guys. If you drop 8 guys into coverage, they're still going to find a way to get open.
Drop 8 guys into coverage. It's 2017 all over again, where Fields had time to sign 7 footballs and still complete a pass.
Yeah, but then on the flip side, if you're bringing 7, only dropping 4,
no, I know
someone's going to get open. Someone's going to get open,
and it's big play day.
Yeah.
No, so how do you want to die, I guess, is the question. I'd go down with a mix.
And against a freshman quarterback, you got to be disguising your coverages too. Nebraska's been hit or miss with that.
Who was the quarterback who came in after Braxton Miller back in 2012?
Oh, that poor guy. What was his name?
2011. Craig something. He had a comb over. He looked 38 when he was, a senior backup.
His name's the tip of my tongue.
It wasn't Krenzel. That was the guy who handed off to Mo and won a title for Sweater Vest. Brett emails in, the cupboard was very bare with Riley and Eichhorst, and COVID screwed up the world for 2 years. Give Scott 2 more years to get it fixed. So beyond this year, give Scott his original 7 is what Brett is saying. Can email in chris@hailvarsity.com. So I got to talk to the resident Denver fan.
But by the way, before we get sad, it was Joe Bowserman.
Bowserman, right. Yeah. Bowserman's probably got a minivan right now.
Maybe 2.
And a really pretty wife and 38 kids, and he's probably a happy guy, right? Good for him. And I know folks who have minivans. That isn't piling on minivan owners. God love you. So, Denver Broncos have agreed to trade 8-time Pro Bowler, MVP, Super Bowl champion Von Miller. Von Miller is now a Ram with Aaron Donald. Rams look salty as all get out with their quarterback in Stafford. The Broncos going to pay $9 million of Miller's remaining $9.7 million base salary. I know he's been oft injured. He's a far cry from that 4-year spurt he had where it was 19 sacks a season. He's still really good. Denver's done well, but a second and third round pick. Do we have the Von Miller audio? No? Okay, well, we'll try and work on that. He met with some of the Denver media, and I think he was in I don't know where he was. He was in his vehicle or something, but it was just it was not at the facility. It's probably in a parking lot or on the street, but Von's traded. He was your guy, wasn't he? I mean, that's part of the reason you're a Donkey fan.
He's my favorite Bronco of all time. I've had a jersey since his rookie year. I loved the Von Miller pick when it happened. I've loved Von Miller for the past 10 years. I loved what he brought. I mean, he almost single-handedly won that Super Bowl for the Broncos with that kind of pressure he brought off the edge, but it was time for him to go to a contender. We all know he wasn't going to re-sign. His contract was coming up at the end of the year. He wasn't going to come back, get some value back, let him go win some football games, and time to start it's been time to start the rebuild for the Broncos, but now I think it's new coaching staff, trading away your stalwart. It's time to start afresh.
Can you profess your love for Von Miller to Searles Thursday?
I will do that.
I want to see what he says about that to you. We'll wind down a Monday next.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Hail Varsity Radio. Find us and subscribe to us. Podcast, Hail Varsity Radio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Give us a rating, good, bad, or ugly. Thanks for the feedback with the email bag and some of the calls today. Good stuff. Appreciate you chiming in. Tomorrow on the show, Rick Kaczynski, Mitch Sherman. We are out to Rick Pizzo, and we have Barry Alvarez coming on tomorrow. I know it's not Wisconsin week, but Barry's been on the College Football Playoff Committee. The playoff results, the opening release is tomorrow night. We'll get his take on, Wisconsin's turnaround, what's going on at Nebraska, the Big Ten as a whole. His coordinator, Leonard, because that's a name that is kind of on that next list of coordinators to coach that you see. Von Miller kind of sharing his love for his time in Denver, not just the gummies, but really his...
That was only one season. He popped positive, and then he fixed it.
I get it. Yeah, exactly. This is the day they test you for street drugs. This is the only day they test you for street drugs. Put it on your calendar. Know there's a 3-day window. Then enjoy. Here's Von Miller.
I've always been a team guy. I've always been a great teammate, and I'm going to continue to do the same thing.
And you hope to be able to play right away? You were close last week?
I was close last week. I hope to be able to play this week versus the Titans on Sunday night. So.
Will you always have Super Bowl 50? Will that be? I
always have Super Bowl 50. Seeing the pictures when I was walking out, it just made me tear up. But we always got Super Bowl 50. I always got Broncos country, and keep going.
Is there hope then, as this thing you saw with Peyton last week, that someday there's a bow that ties where you're Ring of Famer, Hall of Famer?
100%. That's what it's all about, for sure.
Thank you, Von.
Thanks,
you're the
guys.
best.
I appreciate you.
Von Miller, man. He's fun. Great player. Poor Denver. But at least you're not in Miami.
Well, and this gives me a team to root for come postseason. Like Von Miller, stand-up guy in the community, really great football player. Has always kind of taken responsibility and just been, as you said, a team guy. So I'll continue to support him on his retirement journey to LA. Go win a Super Bowl with Matt Stafford. I'd love that.
See, the Rams are right there. They've beaten Tampa. New Orleans stung Tampa too yesterday with Trevor Siemian, the pride of Northwestern, coming off the pine.
I'm really tired of watching these former Broncos quarterbacks go and win games. Case Keenum for the Browns, Trevor Siemian for the Broncos, or for the Saints.
Sure.
And you got the Broncos with, does not matter who they have at quarterback, they're going to lose.
Well, Chiefs tonight, Monday Night Football. Can hear Mitch Holthus and the crew over on KFOR locally in Lincoln. And, of course, Westwood One's coverage, Kevin Harlan and company. For Monday Night Football. Barry Alvarez tomorrow, Mitch Sherman tomorrow, our old buddy Tim May, Mr. Buckeye himself, going to join us this week as we load up and get you ready for Nebraska and Ohio State. That line still, 14.5, 15 the number? See if that goes up or down. And more thoughts post-practice from the coordinators tomorrow. As it is Ohio State week, what can Nebraska do with this opportunity? Talk to you tomorrow at 4 with Hail Varsity. Thanks.